with your students. By show of hands, who has a teacher in their building that they're currently using apps on the iPad with some of your students? All right, by show of hands, who has a system that you use to only use vetted apps by educators or ones in similar fields, or by people in a similar field?
That's a great answer.
All right, so hence our session here today. I would want to just briefly introduce Alex Vidor.
Got it.
Did I get it? He said V and then the door. So, and his team are here with us today. They are just, I think, at this really cool turning point to make our teachers and using apps and apps for education and being able to provide a housing source for vetting those apps and those resources for all of our schools. They're going to tell us a little bit about the opportunity you have this coming year as an NCAIS school, and how your resource and your network can help our teachers as well as your students. So please join me in welcoming Alex and his team with us this morning.
Thank you very much. Is this working? Good? Okay, perfect. No? The green light's on. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for letting me be here. Some friendly faces in the crowd, and certainly that exercise got rid of some of that nervous energy. So I just wanted to start with, we love the internet. We as Americans, we love the internet. There is so much out there, including things like organic, gluten-free cat food recipes, little videos on cats, and cat forums, so we can discuss all the things we love about cats and those videos. The problem is, sometimes we hate the internet because we have to sift through that and other garbage out there to find what we really want. And the parallel I'm trying to drive home is that with increased access to resources and more resources to access, that doesn't mean it's all good quality. And so there is a lot of garbage out there, and so we want to find a better way to figure out what the good stuff is. So just to sort of set the stage, the class of 2017 has never been without the internet and GPS, USB ports, or even things like textbook rentals. Technology is everywhere. I imagine that each of you, within 30 minutes of getting here yesterday, probably asked for the Wi-Fi password. And I also imagine I'm not the only person who's been in a Chili's or an Outback and had a little kid run past me and hit me with their iPad. It's frustrating. They're out there everywhere, especially in the classroom. You know, looking at some of the trends from the last year, there are 5 million tablets within classrooms right now, and the trend is growing. And with this expansion and explosion of tablets, there's an explosion of apps. And we're up to, between the two app stores, 100 billion downloads, which is not a number you can scoff at. And looking at the plethora of choices, within the Google and Apple app stores, which have the educational app category as the second or third biggest category, have 120,000 and 90,000 apps. And I think this is sort of a good place to talk about how we got here. So about a year and a half ago, my younger sister, I'm so proud, she just got a full ride academic scholarship to Stetson. But a year and a half ago, she's studying for one of her last biology tests. And I come home and she's using an iPad. And I asked her, was this app one that your teacher suggested for you? And it was no, I Googled it. And so I thought, why haven't her teachers guided her? And the problem is, how do the teachers choose? The industry standard is 1 to 5 star ratings, which is generic and one-dimensional, anonymous comments, unverifiable profiles. Who is this person? Does their opinion count? And really the next best thing is an incremental improvement with these websites where it's a panel of educators who say, this is the best app. The problem is, they are very qualified, but their recommendations are prescriptive based on their sole experiences and, context. And so what we feel is that every teacher is not the same. And so this one-size-fits-all model is not the best way about going to figure out what app is right for you as a teacher and your teaching style, you and your classroom and your curriculum, and what type of students you have. Also, what is the value of a star? This is a great example. Half of these people said it was a 5-star app. The other half said it was not. And what do these people know? And what don't we know? And again, you can't vet who the person is who's rating it to begin with. Let's give an example. So let's say that this is Duolingo is a very well-known translation app. If you saw ratings like that, you would not want to download that. But again, you don't know who's rating it. It could very easily be construction workers who were just trying to pick up a second language and gave up on it and said it was a garbage app. But let's say we were able to filter it on just teachers. Wouldn't you be more interested in downloading that app? Now again, that's only part of the problem being solved. That one-dimensional 1 to 5 star rating is still unhelpful, and you don't really know the credentials of the specific person recommending it. So there should be a better way, and there will be a better way. And so Hugo Network, which stands for Here You Go, is our community. And what we want to do is mitigate the 1 to 5 star incomplete review picture with a multifaceted, intuitive review. And we'll get to that in just a second. And then, of course, understanding that every teacher is their own CEO, and it's not a one-size-fits-all model, we think that this network should be built by teachers by the criteria and characteristics that they find valuable, and then allow them to rate and review based on their personal preferences. So, Hugo Network is a community for educators. Many of you are familiar with Teachers Pay Teachers, which doesn't surprise me because 30% of all K-12 teachers in the US are a registered user. And their entire business model, and they have this on their website, and sort of the branded points are, don't reinvent the wheel at every school, learn from proven examples of other teachers in their context, in their field, and save time and money. And so we want to take that to vetting educational apps. So it all starts with teachers. And so what we want to do is have a Teachers Pay Teachers sort of profile, where a teacher would register under X experience level, X number of years teaching, they teach under this curriculum, this is their highest level of education, and of course, any notable teaching awards or anything like that. And then just as on Amazon.com, if a review is helpful, you get to say so, and those reviews float to the top. And so we want to do the same thing, allow teachers whose reviews are most helpful to come to the top. Now, a new kind of review is the second piece, and that means looking at an app as a tool and not just an app. And that means that you need to have it reviewed and rated on 3 key components: the teaching part, the tech part, and then the learning part. Now, that only helps you figure out, okay, this is an app that's been recommended and proven by other teachers, but that doesn't help me figure out how to bring it into the classroom. And so what we want to take advantage of are these teachers who have had the experience in using these apps and create teacher-led how-to forums, whether it be videos or just best practices, but essentially related to each individual app, the context of how that teacher used it. This is a great pre-semester assessment tool, or this is great for studying on long bus rides because I have a lot of athletes in my class, or this is one that keeps me in touch with my students over the summer. And then here's how I've used it, and it's worked for me. And then the fourth piece is, once you've used those first 3 components to understand, okay, this is the best app based on a comprehensive review system, proven examples, and then through videos and forums, okay, now I know how to use it, you need to get that in front of your students. And so we want to facilitate that via a sharing mechanism that will allow you to get sort of your instructions for how you want to use it in your curriculum in class to your students, fellow teachers, and parents, the full range of stakeholders. Especially these days, so many schools are BYOD, or apps are just being used at home. And this provides an opportunity for what we consider the range of a one-to-one school program, or all the way to, hey, if you want some extra help, here's an e-library of vetted apps from your teachers. And so we think that this is a way to sort of turn the dial. So Hugo is a 4-pillar solution: discover, use, integrate, review, and recommend. And going back to the teachers, because we've told Linda from the beginning, we want this to be a teacher-centric company. And empowering the teachers means you get to filter based on the type of teacher reviewing the app, or geographically. Maybe you want to just get some techniques from someone down the hallway, or maybe another NCAIS school. Or what about reaching out to the National Association and talking with teachers in San Francisco or New York and see what they're working with? Or maybe your school wants to move more toward a STEM approach, and you get to see what apps are being used in those type of classrooms. And again, you get to see around the corner and don't have to try it out yourself. So looking at the big picture, what we want to do is save teachers time, save them cost, not having to try out paid apps, and of course reduce the frustration. And we also feel that a lot of apps, as you saw on that earlier slide, about 2/3 of all educational apps are free, and a lot of schools are utilizing those. And so with this comprehensive perspective of, okay, This is how teachers under this curriculum are using apps to supplement their work. It gives teachers an opportunity to perhaps move away from these costly print materials and more toward an agile technology module type resource, which is the App Store. And we want this to increase sort of the scope of visible apps that teachers have used without sacrificing that for bad reviews. And then, of course, efficiency and quality. And then there's one other piece that I want to mention that we feel that we're breaking the mold. Most educational software companies have a enterprise level as sort of their base price point. We don't want to do that. We want to, if there's one teacher at one school who wants to try this out, we think they should. And so what we want to move toward is a Netflix type price point, where for 2 cups of coffee a month, a teacher gets access to this wealth of resources and these reviews. And then, of course, as more teachers at the school sign on, decrease the price. Now, I will say I'm not here to tell you something, so don't worry. What we're asking for is your help. So a great example would be, pardon me. I spoke to Kim Schneider of Gaston Day last week, and she was telling us that through our primary research, the feedback they've gotten has really unearthed some interesting characteristics. So up until now, we've been doing some primary research with Cape Fear Academy, Noble Academy, and Gaston Day, as well as various other educators across the state that we know. One example that she gave us was Gaston Day is a Google school. They operate, things need to sync to Google. And so from an institution point of view, they probably want to filter apps that only do that. Or then going down to the teacher preference. One teacher said, well, I'm not too tech savvy, so apps I recommend my students need to be web browser compatible. So for that particular teacher, they'd be able to take control of their classroom and filter apps based on that. Another teacher said, well, I don't really trust my students with not breaking the devices, so I want the apps to all sync to the cloud so I don't lose their work. So again, you can see being able to first have the, full perspective of what characteristics around educational apps are valuable, and then the ability to filter based on your own personal needs is really powerful. So what we've been doing now is really bringing together, and we think we have a pretty good idea of the criteria that teachers want. But again, there's no point in going further if we can't be sure. And so what we're hoping to do today is to have your teachers help us with a very small, non-invasive primary research push, where essentially surveys to understand, okay, what are the criteria that are meaningful for you? Not just for rating the app, but when a teacher tells you how they use it in the classroom, how do you want that broken down? So really to get this full picture. And so please contact us. What we're going to do is provide to Linda both this PowerPoint as well as an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. And what we'd like your teachers to help us with is to, throughout the summer, fulfill that primary research push, and then we're going to work internally with our team to build this software template that hopefully by 2015 teachers will begin to be able to use. So thank you so much. I have to give a big thank you to Linda Nelson for meeting with us so many times and allowing for us to be here. And of course, Cape Fear, Gaston, and Noble, and then UNCW and the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So in conclusion, Hugo is the freedom to choose and the power to integrate. And so with that, I will let you open it up to any questions for anybody.
Did you mention the first year for all of our students?
Oh yes, sorry, I totally forgot to mention. Because we understand that your time is valuable, we want to, when this goes live, give it to your teachers, any schools that help us, absolutely free for an undefined, but at least the first year. That's a big thing. I probably should have mentioned that.
So what does it look like?
So, Sam, you're probably a better person to.
Sure. So the way we would describe it, we're still in the development phase right now, and one of the reasons for that is we really feel that teacher feedback is going to be critical to understanding what it should look like at the final point, and also how a teacher is going to interact with it. But the way I would describe it is it's going to be a very simple interface that says, hey, what are you looking for today? What are you trying to find? Oh, I'm trying to find an app that helps my students with short vowel pronunciation. Okay. Do you need something that's a little bit more fine-tuned? Yeah, I only want to hear from teachers who are in independent schools, and I only want to hear from Southeastern teachers. And so it'll be a quick multi-select filter that says, okay, here are the top apps, or here are the top resources, because we don't want to just stop with apps. We actually want to go forward and actually start to integrate videos and web series and podcasts and scholarly articles. But we'll start with apps to begin with. says, here are the top apps as sorted by the folks that you've chosen to listen from. Once you actually click into that, you'll actually see two components. You'll see both the review from the App Store itself, because that is valuable information. It's from the developer, it's how they intend for you to use it. It's, you know, it does provide quite a bit of data. But then also the Hugo developed review, the review that's been based off of teacher input. So, hey, this app is utilized on both Apple, Google, and Windows tablets. Hey, it does sync to the cloud. It also collects student data. You know, it also allows for you to save off, use cases, to create a very simple and easy way for a teacher to assess, is this something that I want to bring into my classroom? Does this meet my criteria? Does this help me convey the lessons that I'm trying to do in my template? And then allows the teacher to see other teachers' use cases. Hey, you know, instead of just putting this in front of my students, I integrated it with this component of my pre-existing lesson plan, and also, you know, this article that I wanted to use, or this video from, you know, Sesame Street that I found on this website, and allows teachers to share how they've combined multiple digital tools to enhance their classroom environment. And then once they've actually decided, yes, this is something I'm interested in, allows them to recommend it to their students' tablets, parents, fellow teachers. Hey, you know what, this was great. I can't believe we didn't have this already. You know, I want everybody in our school to understand, you know, that this is out there and available.
So the interface could begin to look a little bit like TripAdvisor, and you go in and you can put in some criteria.
Absolutely.
Take you someplace. But are you going to do the reviews, the Hugo overview?
That's exactly
So you
right.
will write that for every app.
And we have a VP from Nielsen Company on our advisory board who's been guiding us through this process of, first of all, making sure we're asking the right questions of your teachers, and then synthesizing it in the correct logical way. And so we are definitely surrounding ourselves with.
The short answer to your question is no. The teachers themselves will be writing the reviews. What we'll do is we'll aggregate teacher responses into a, hey, this is what teachers have said. You know, it's a, you know.
But I mean, that's a lot of that's a lot of work.
It is, and that's why we're asking for your help. We really need to understand from the teacher's perspective what's important to you, because there's a lot of information, and maybe not all of it's important. So we need to come up with, and we need to design a review that's simple and intuitive and gets you exactly the information you need without the information that you don't.
How are you gonna know which of the 90,000 education apps you're gonna try to do this with, or are you gonna just try to do?
So when you think about it, when you start to build a network, you actually have to start small. So you have to incentivize. But the fact of the matter is, we do have educators out there using these tools right now. And so there's already a set of applications and tools that teachers have developed a fondness for or a distaste for. So it's actually a user-generated network. So it's not that we're selecting, hey, we need, you know, apps 1 through 30 to be reviewed immediately. It's, you know, we're going to provide an incentive for teachers to start posting reviews on the things that they're using today. And since there are so many things out there, and since we're trying to get in contact with so many teachers and say, you know, here's really why we're,
That would help.
Thanks so much. And here's why we're looking for your help. We're hoping that we can start to generate a network that's, you know, covers a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But I would say that, you know, the way to think about it is Yelp. If you were to choose, you know, a restaurant that you're going to go out to tonight, you'd go there and you'd say, hey, I'm looking for sushi in Wilmington. Yelp did not prescribe and go through every sushi store in Wilmington and say, hey, we need reviews for these. They let the user say, I just tried this place. It was awful. Don't go there.
So what's the business model?
So if you think about it a little bit.
You'll talk up just a little
sure.
bit so that people in the back can
Yep.
see.
So the business model is a combination between, as Alex said, Netflix and I think, you know, Yelp or Angie's List. It's a subscription-based model, so a teacher will pay to have access to other teacher reviews for, I would say, you know, and don't hold me to this, but somewhere between $5 and $10 a month, to then be able to log in and see teacher reviews of other digital content. And the fact of the matter is we need to keep this reasonable for teachers because it can't just be an enterprise system. We really want to let teachers say, hey, you know what? Hugo Network is fantastic. I really was going and spending a lot of time looking for content, and what this allows me to do is cut that time in half. You know, a great example that we've heard from is the Brookline Public School System up in Boston has been piloting iPads in their classrooms. And each teacher meets with all of the other pilot teachers once a month for 3 hours. And instead of discussing how better to use their iPads, whether the students are getting it, are there better techniques for, you know, introducing technology, they spend 3 hours a month discussing what apps they're using. And that's time that's wasted. It's you know, something that could be done on your own. We recently heard from another NK school that they sent 5 teachers to a seminar specifically on that for
a considerable fee for a one-day experience, and they walked away with a booklet of, a valuable material, but that valuable material is going to sit wherever that book sits. There needs to be a digital repository for all of your teachers to go and say, hey, if this is what I'm looking for, let me find it fast, quick, let me learn how to use it, let me integrate it into my lesson plan as quickly and as easily as possible. So, as Alex mentioned, we now have, the wealth of the internet at our fingertips, but that's a double-edged sword. We now have everything that could possibly be there, but how do you filter it and how do you make sure that you're getting the right material? And the answer is to let other teachers and let other users' experiences guide you as you try and bring that content into the classroom.
Could you move beyond apps to Khan Academy? Certain
Absolutely.
things that are generated. My physics teacher has a whole series of videos on circuitry.
Absolutely.
So a benefit that can come from it being a sort of membership model where me as a teacher registers as this type of teacher under this curriculum and this experience. Through that recommendation piece and being able to see, okay, this particular teacher is recommending and using these types of apps, we're able to correlate, for example, starting with apps, but maybe initially, let's say 8th grade AP biology, there's 15 teachers that are recommending these sets of apps, these sets of Khan Academy videos, these sets of whatever, and that's sort of what we're trying to pull together. And what's great is with sort of our technical infrastructure, without boring anybody, including myself on it, there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with that data and start to do predictive as well as correlate, and we're really excited about it.
So to begin with, we're looking to develop a review around apps because that seems to be the first component that folks have tried to integrate in their classrooms. But as you touch on, Khan Academy also has a ton of videos, some of which are better than others. And what we need to do is be able to get beyond that and say, okay, really, I'm going to want some of these, I'm not going to want all of these. And how do we then, so if once we get through this process of developing a review for apps, the review for videos or the review for web series is not going to look exactly the same. There will be overlapping components, but we'll need to go through another round of understanding. When you're trying to bring in a video into your classroom, what do you need to know? Hey, I need to know, is it copyrighted? I need to know how long is it? I need to know if I can pause it and do work in between. Or I need to know if this is something that my students should be taking home. There's a lot of different components around the different types of digital medium that can be brought into the classroom that we need to better understand what the teacher's needs are so that we can then ask for reviews based on that.
Yes.
Think about that triangle you have, teaching, learning, and IT.
Mm-hmm.
Will you ask for feedback from IT folks, and what about students?
So great question. So as we looked at sort of the market, one thing we've noticed is an increased hire of educational technology directors at schools because someone has to manage this. And so we have made a point of figuring out, okay, what are your biggest challenges? And for Kim at Gaston Day, I have to go to each teacher and they ask me which Spanish apps I should use. I'm not a Spanish teacher. And so that was, the first thing she said to us. And so to mitigate that would be huge. Regarding students, initially we want to start with teachers and focus on them. But through this unique sort of sharing mechanism, we do see in the end a way for a student to provide their feedback. For example, you could go onto Common Sense Media right now, and the panel of teachers says, this is a great app. But guess what? There's no student underneath saying, yeah, I agree with that teacher. It really did help me. Or saying, she may think that, but it didn't really help me. And so we do see in the end a way to bring this review full circle to the teacher who's using it, but also the student who's learning from it.
So hopefully, again, what we're asking for is we're going to send out both the presentation and a quick letter demonstrating what it is that we're looking for. But to sum it up, it's a very short survey trying to understand from a teacher's perspective, when talking about digital educational content, what is it that you need to know? What is it that's going to make sense for you to say, I can look at this and know intuitively that out of the 10 or 20 apps in front of me, this is the one that I want to test, this is the one I want to spend time evaluating, or these 3 look like they meet my criteria and my students' learning style and my teaching style, and these are the ones I'm gonna explore to then go and purchase and distribute to my students.
So you want our teachers to complete that survey?
Yes. And so it's a very short survey. It's about 3 questions. It should take teachers about 5 to 10 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll actually set up with each of the heads, a list of, hey, these are the teachers that have volunteered or signed up to take your survey. We'll then send out the survey. It'll be open for about a 2-week period so that the teachers can then take it on their time. Again, we're going to try and keep it short and sweet. We're then going to aggregate all of those responses and start to understand the buckets with which teachers view educational content. We'll then be working with a digital designer to help us create a review that makes sense. And then we'd also like to come back to the NK schools and say, hey, this is what we've created. You know, would you mind if we got your teacher's input yet again? Does this look like something you'd use? Does this make sense? Is it easy to digest? And does it accomplish the goal of helping you figure out what belongs in your classroom or what doesn't?
Is that gonna happen this summer?
We'd like it to happen this summer and into the fall. The fall would be for testing the actual design and saying, hey, this is what it's gonna look like. But again, we'd like to present, 3 or 4 options. Please choose, 1 or 2 of them that make sense and that you're able to read, and discard any that you don't like.
Excuse me, Alex, could you underscore the benefit for the teachers who are participating?
Oh, yeah.
And so again, any school that helps us with this primary push, we're looking, when we roll this out and we actually set up our pay-for-service model, any schools that have worked with us in the development of the product will, of course, receive access to all of the teacher reviews and all of the content free for at least the first year, if not the first 2 years. We recognize that you're, giving us your teachers' time and experience, and that is of, huge value to us as an, educational tech startup. Knowing and keeping teachers at the center of our development process is really what sets us apart from a lot of the other a lot of the other ed tech companies that are either a little bit more prescriptive or keep a hands-off model of, hey, we're going to do this in-house and you can use us or you can't. But particularly for some of the big players on the block, we're forced to use Google or Apple because that's what's there. But there is a better way to do this, and that's what we're trying to build.
Just a logistical feedback, it's a little hard to get the attention of some teachers over the summer.
Mhm.
The ones you get will have more time than they would during the school year.
Yeah, and
Do what we can.
Well, that's why we're hoping to cast the net, and I will say, we've had, we started this idea in Atlanta, and Atlanta's very isolated, lots of great schools there, but what we didn't see was this expanse of great schools across multiple substantial cities across the state. And so we really think it's a unique opportunity to work with NK schools. And a few weeks ago, we had the opportunity at the North Carolina Technology Association. We were one of 8 companies selected from across the state to present in front of 650 people, professionals, including some people of teacher associations. And they came up to us and were very interested. But this is through working with Linda and each of the headmasters so far, and of course the IT directors and the teachers. This is where we feel that we want to plant our flag and really grow this. So, and in working with Linda, we want to make sure and ensure that this stays aligned to the benefits of the schools throughout this whole process.
Yeah, and I just want to say, we've been working together over the last year pretty much, and we've met several times, and Alex and Sam have called and kept me up to date as they've progressed, and I just have continuously been so impressed with their approach to this. They're young, they're passionate, they're innovative, they understand the business piece, they also understand the technical piece and how to make it happen. They ask the right questions, both of us and I think of people in the business community and in the tech community that can help support them. They've surrounded themselves with some great allies, people who have, people who have done it before and
Yep,
understand.
absolutely.
They have UNC Wilmington behind them. I mean, they're just doing an awful lot of things right, and it's nice that they want our input and that they're willing to work with us long term to make it available to our teachers as a way of saying thank you. So I'm just really excited about this, and hope we get a good response.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and again, thank you all for having us. We really do appreciate you giving us your time.
Thank you.
Any last questions? Will you be here with us today at lunch?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So if you know that your school is